Hi everyone, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I am going to show you how I created this beautiful gingerbread house tumbler. This was my very first time trying this tumbler, and of course I wanted to try it with y'all. I go over materials while I'm using them in the video, but I also have a list of all the materials that I use in my description below. There are a lot of steps to this tutorial, but that's okay. If you just take it one step at a time and just do every step that I did, then you'll turn out having a tumbler just like mine or something even better. And if you did create a Miss Kiss Creations tumbler or a tumbler like this, you can always join my Facebook group, Tumblers Creators with a K, and I'll be sure to check it out. If you are on Instagram, hashtag your photo with Miss Kiss Creations, and I'll be sure to check that out as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started with this tumbler. So I'm starting out with a 20-ounce stainless steel tumbler. I purchased this from Maker Flow Crafts. I sanded this tumbler with a 180 grit sanding block, and then I wiped it down with 91% alcohol. After I wiped it down with 91% alcohol, I sprayed it down with flat or matte white spray paint, and then I let it dry. So what I want to tackle first is I want to do the decals. So how I'm going to do the roof is I'm going to make it like shingles or fish scales. So I have my fish scales cut out with my Cricut. I just found fish scales on Cricut Design Space, and then I made it, I think it's 11.5 by about 3.5 inches. You want to make this bigger than what you intend it to be on your cup, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and weed these fish scales, and then I will return. My fish scales are now weeded, and I don't know if I mentioned this prior, but this vinyl is going to be temporary vinyl or 631 vinyl. You do not want this to be permanent vinyl because this is going to act as a template. So make sure you are using permanent vinyl. You're gonna want another piece of vinyl. So I have this, again, 631 or temporary vinyl. It could be any color. This vinyl doesn't have to be black. I just have black on hand. And you want it to be around the same size as this, as the scales. You're going to have two templates. So you're gonna have one template and then the second template. And then once the video continues, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna place this on my tumbler, and I just want y'all to see an idea that I have in my head. So I want these to act as like the rooftop. So I want the scales to point up. So the pointy part I want up. I don't wanna place it like this because it won't look like a roof. So I wanna make sure I point it up. And I'm going to kind of do little half circles around the cup to kind of simulate like a rooftop or like a snow or something of that sort. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this piece of vinyl on top of my black vinyl, and then I'm going to kind of like tape it on the back, and then I want them to stick together. So I don't want the tape to be permanent, so I'm just going to use some painter's tape, and I'm just going to tape it on the back. Now, there's another way that you can do this. If you do have Cricut Design Space, you can take two shapes, or you could take one rectangle and then one, and then this scale, and then you can slice it and then cut them both out. But I'm doing this for the people who don't understand Cricut, or who might not have Cricut Design Space, or just want to do it this way just to make it a little easier for them. I have my two decals together. I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and this is the reason why I told y'all I wanted my scales to be a little bigger, because I'm going to be cutting out some scales. So you could do it any way you like. We could start wherever. If you don't feel confident freehanding it, you can kind of trace something on there, maybe a candle, or maybe you can use your tumbler and kind of do circles to simulate, to make it look like snow, or you can just cut it a little, like just a wavy line. That's all you want, is you just want a kind of wavy line so you can kind of have it look like a rooftop and represent like snow, how snow kind of places on the roof and kind of hangs down. So to make it easier for me, I'm going to take a permanent marker and then I'm just going to make my line. And then once I make the line, I'm just going to cut it. And it doesn't have to be exactly on that line. This is just a guideline. And it doesn't matter if you get the marker on your vinyl, because this vinyl is just going to be a template. So here it is. And if you want to make it more curvy, if you want to add 5 or 6 curves in there instead of my 2, go ahead and do that. I just kind of did this just so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Next, you're going to remove the vinyl from each other. So you're going to have 2 pieces of vinyl. So I'm working with 2 separate templates. I have my template for my rooftop, and then I have this template. I'm going to explain what this template is. So in order to get my gingerbread house look, I'm going to take fishnet stockings and I'm going to place them on the tumbler, and then I'm going to spray paint it brown. So I only want to spray paint the areas that are going to be the gingerbread house. So I don't want to spray the entire cut brown because I need this to be white. I don't want this to be brown. So I'm going to use this template and place this on the tumbler like so. And if it overlaps, that's okay. I'll just cut it down. So I'm going to place it like so. And that way my gingerbread house is going to be all of this, and everything that's up top is going to be my rooftop. Before I place my template on my tumbler, I'm going to mark my decal. This is just going to show which side matches up with what side. So I'm just using another piece of vinyl just so I can know which side is which. I have my black decal on my tumbler, and my next step is going to be placing my other decal just over it. The sticky part isn't off. I just want to make sure that I did lay this down properly. So now I'm just going to wrap around the tumbler, and I want to make sure I'm not seeing any black sticking out. I don't see any black sticking out. So even if I do, whenever I take it up and then I place it down, if it kind of looks wonky, we'll just figure it out from there. So this is my first time trying this tumbler, and like a lot of crafters, you guys know whenever you first try something, you have a little bit of mistakes. So we'll get through it together, but so far so good. All right, let's go ahead and apply the fishnet stocking. So I have this, I just place it on my hand, and then I kind of hold the tumbler, and then it just goes right on. And then I place it inside of the cup, the excess fishnet. I'm going to be spraying this tumbler with a light brown. I have 2 color light browns. I have satin brown boots from Krylon, and then I have nutmeg from Rust-Oleum. I'm out of the nutmeg from Rust-Oleum, so I'm going to use my satin brown boots from Krylon. So all you're going to do is you're just going to take this outside. You're going to spray it kind of at a further distance than what you want, because you don't want to make any drips or anything on this tumbler. You want it to be an even spray. So hold your spray paint can about 10 inches away from the tumbler, and as you're spraying, turn your tumbler so you're not directly spraying on the tumbler and making that kind of spills or the dripping effect. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this outside, and I'll return. My tumbler is completely spray painted, and I still have my fishnet stockings on my tumbler because it is still wet. So you want to remove your fishnets from your tumbler whenever it has dried. The reason for that is because if you remove your fishnets now, then whenever you remove it, it's going to smear or smudge the spray paint. So you want to keep it intact the way it is. Wait about 35-45 minutes max, and then you'll be able to remove your fishnet. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll go ahead and remove it on camera to show y'all. Hey guys, I'm back with my tumbler, and it is completely dried. So I'm going to take my football and my tumbler arm out of my tumbler, and then I'm just going to take off the stocking. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this out like so. It's all balled up in there. And if to make this easier for you, if you want to cut these, you can. But I just keep mine like this because I just take my time with it, and then I just take it off. And then you're gonna see that it's spray painted up top. That's fine. And then I'm taking it off like so. And you can see the bottom always comes out kind of cool. For the next step of my tumbler, I'm going to remove my 631 vinyl or temporary vinyl. So it's going to be white underneath. So I'm gonna start from the end that's on top and then just peel it up. I'm going to peel up my pink vinyl and then I'm going to place it inside of the tumbler. So that's gonna show me where to start the vinyl just to make it easier. So whenever I place my fish scales on there, just to make it a little easier for me. So it's all peeled up and this is what it should look like. For the next step of this tumbler, I'm going to be adding glitter to only the white part up top. So the glitter I'll be using today is from Glitter Heart Company and it's their white diamonds. I'm going to be applying the glitter with the Mod Podge method. So I have my Mod Podge here and then I have my Mod Podge or sponge brush. And what I do is I just go around the tumbler with the sponge brush and I just apply it to the white part. And whenever I apply the glitter is only going to stick where the Mod Podge is. All right, so I have my glitter on my tumbler, and for my next step, what I want to do is I have a little bit of glitter on the brown sections, and I don't want that because if I spray this with sealer, that glitter is going to stick there. So I'm going to clean up the brown sections, and I'm just going to remove it with my fingers. So you can see I just push away the glitter, and I just wipe it off onto the paper, and it comes right off. There's no Mod Podge on that brown section, so there should be no adhesive that the glitter is sticking to. So this comes right off. You want to make sure that you're getting this glitter off because like I said, whenever we go to spray this with the sealer, it's going to stick to this brown part. And if you have some stragglers, that's okay. But I just want to make it look like kind of a crisp line or kind of like that snow effect that I was talking about in the beginning. I'm now going to go outside and spray my tumbler 3 times with Krylon Crystal Clear acrylic coating. So I'm going to spray it 1 time, wait about 5 seconds, spray it another time, wait 5 seconds, and spray it a 3rd time, then wait another 5 seconds. Once I'm finished spraying my tumbler, I'm going to let it sit just air dry on the cup turner or on my drying racks for about 30 to 45 minutes. Once it's been drying for 30 to 45 minutes, I'll return and we'll move on to the next step. I just want to show you I still have that pink vinyl inside of here, so I'm keeping my marker for my vinyl when I go to place the scales down. So make sure you keep that. If it gets in the way, just put it more towards the bottom of the tumbler, as long as you keep it in that same spot where it was so we know where to lay that vinyl. So I'll see you in about 45 minutes. Hey guys, I'm back with my tumbler. It is now dried from the sealer and now I'm going to epoxy. So my glitter, whenever I press on it, little to none comes off and transfers onto my glove. So that's what you want. I want to keep all that glitter up there. And if some does like come down on the cup where the brown part is, that's all right. You just add a little extra sparkle to your tumbler. So I have mixed my epoxy off screen. The epoxy that I use will be posted in my description below along with the link. I have mixed a total amount of about 20 to 22 mLs of epoxy. So that's about 10 to 11 milliliters of epoxy of part A and 10 to 11 milliliters of epoxy of part B. Total about 20 to 22 milliliters of epoxy in my cup. I don't want a lot of epoxy on this tumbler. I just want enough just to seal in the design. And I'm just going to apply it to the top first and then work my way down. I'm going to use 1 gloved finger for the top part or the glitter part. And then I'll use another gloved finger for the other part. A lot of the glitter shouldn't be transferring down, but just in case it does, I just want that crisp line to kind of stay intact there. So you're not going to apply this epoxy any way different than you would any other tumbler. So just put it on as you would and then just work your way down to the tumbler. Once I'm finishing epoxying my tumbler, I'm going to allow it to spin on the cup turner for about 6 to 8 hours. After 6 to 8 hours, I'm then going to turn off my cup turner, and then I'm going to allow my tumbler to air dry or air cure for another 10 to 12 hours or so. So I want a total drying time of about 24 hours. You want to have your tumbler dry for at least 24 hours because I will be adding decals to this tumbler, and I don't want the epoxy being not cured or still wet because I don't want it to crack anyway. I don't want the decal or the transfer tape to rip up the epoxy in any way. So I just want to make sure that this tumbler is completely cured or completely dry with this first coat of epoxy. And with this first coat of epoxy, you don't want too much on your tumbler because this is just going to be my first coat. We're going to add another coat of epoxy towards the end. So that one can be a little thicker just to lock in everything and lock in those decals we'll be adding later. And then that's whenever you can have your thicker or more thick coat of epoxy. And make sure you are getting the bottom of the tumbler. My tumbler is completely covered with the first coat of epoxy, and I'll see y'all in about 24 hours. Hey everybody, I'm back with my tumbler. It is now cured or dried. The epoxy is all over the tumbler. I placed it from the top all the way to the bottom. So now for the next step, I'm going to place my mermaid scales or my fish scales on my tumbler. I still have my pink and blue markers, so I can try to eyeball where to place the template. I'm going to place my transfer tape on my scales, and then I'm going to transfer it onto my tumbler. All right, so I know that this side right here is my pink side, the other side's my blue. Remember, I kept my pink vinyl inside of my tumbler. You can see it maybe inside the cup. So I have it inside of there, so I'm going to see where I can place this decal. So it's somewhere around this area. I did have to move it, so I'm just going to play around with this and then place it on the tumbler. And then I'm just going to turn it so the entire decal can be placed on the tumbler. My decal is now on my tumbler, and the back kind of didn't line up, but I'm going to be adding glitter to this, so I'm going to just try to connect them both. So don't really worry about that too much unless it absolutely drives you crazy, then try to make it as lined up as you can. So I have some excess hanging down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to X-Acto knife those pieces off where it touches that gingerbread house. So I'd rather it overlap it than not overlap it because I could just easily cut it off, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm finished kind of trimming up the bottom. So I'm gonna go around my decal, and I wanna make sure it's pressed down properly. So I wanna make sure it's pressed down because I don't want any of the colors separating each other. And as for the top, I just kind of place it above, and I peel it down into the tumbler. You can remove that inside marker or decal that you placed earlier. So the top, I'm just kind of pressing it down. The decal, if there's any excess vinyl, I just press it down so I don't have to cut it off. There's no reason to cut it off if you don't have to. So I'm making sure that my vinyl is completely pressed down, and then I'm going to move on to the next step, which is applying the glitter to the rooftop. The way that I'm going to be applying my glitter to my tumbler is going to be with the Mod Podge method. So I have my tiny little brush here, my little sponge brush. You can use a paintbrush if you have that on hand. And then I have my little painter's tray. I'm going to be adding the colors Money Bag and Queen of Hearts from Glitter Heart Company. and I'm going to be placing it on the roof shingles. So you can do this any way you like, and you can add more colors if you like. It's a gingerbread house, so I know gingerbread houses, they have plenty of different colors. I'm going to add like diagonal, like all red here, all green here, all red here. You can do lines, all red, all green, all red, or you can add some yellow or some blue in yours. So just make this your own tumbler and do whatever you like for the roof. I'm going to be adding the green first, and I'm going to add it, I'm going to add the Mod Podge first. So I'm just Mod Podging the areas that I want the green to stick to. So I would recommend using a small brush. So if you have one of those big sponge brushes, I recommend it being a little smaller, just so you can get into the specific areas that you want it and you don't want to overlap it. And I'm going to do one row at a time. So I'm going to do this row of Mod Podge, and then I'll apply glitter, and then I'll do the next row, just so the Mod Podge doesn't dry. So if you, you know, if your Mod Podge type, if it dries faster, so, and if it does seem to dry a little faster, then just do 2 or 3 of the shingles, and then glitter, and then Mod Podge again. So you can overlap the Mod Podge. That's okay. Like, you can get it on the decal. It's not going to mess up a decal because we're going to pull up this decal whenever it's completely glittered. So I have all the Mod Podge on my tumbler, making sure that I don't have any glitter, any Mod Podge on the shingles that aren't supposed to be green. So if I had Mod Podge on this shingle right here and I'm not supposed to have it green, then it's going to get on that shingle, and that shingle is supposed to be red. So I'm just going to dump the green all over the Mod Podge and then let it fall off. And it's not going to look pretty right now because you have that decal on there. And then any glitter that was left over on the tumbler, just kind of wipe it off, or you can blow it off, and then we'll move on to the next row and then continue to do that until the green's completely filled up. To get the glitter off, I like to use just a dry brush, and then I kind of brush it off so it doesn't get all over my hands. And that cleans it up a little bit. It makes it a lot easier for me. If you have a little bigger brush, that might work as well. But I just clean up the areas that I don't want to be green. And now I'm going to move on to the next row. My green's on my tumbler, so now I'm going to move on with the red. I'm just going to be applying the red into the spots where there's no green. So you see the pattern that I'm using, the red, green, red, green. All right, y'all, so I have my tumbler. It's completely glittered. The red and green's on here. So now, before it dries, I'm going to lift up the template or the vinyl. I have my weeding tool, and I'm just going to carefully pick it at the vinyl. And you can try to find the spot where you like the end piece of it. If you can't, you can try to pick somewhere else, but I believe this is my end piece. So I'm going to grab this and then just pull up the vinyl very, very carefully. My vinyl is peeled up from my tumbler, and you can see the mess, or the back is a little bit of a hot mess. I'm going to take a Q-tip, and I'm going to kind of clean up between the red and the green. And then since this is a little wet, or whenever it dries, the back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and kind of X-Acto knife off and kind of just take off this little part right here on the back. So if you need to do some cleaning up, Q-tip works well, especially if your Mod Podge is still wet. And if it doesn't bother you as much, then you can just leave it as is. Like I said, this is the back of the cup, so or just line up your decal better than I did. So I'm gonna work on this, and everything else kind of turned out well. I really like how it looks. If you need to clean it up some, just apply, like let's say right here, that Mod Podge kind of slipped away there. So what I'll do is I'll take some Mod Podge, I'll remove this little piece of green glitter, and then I'll take a little bit of Mod Podge for the end there, and I'll put it right on the end where it should be, and then I'll just add a little bit of glitter there, and it kind of fills in that spot. You can shape it with like your fingernail, you can shape it with another Q-tip or X-Acto knife, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of glitter there. So this is kind of spot treating it, so I'm kind of just cleaning it up a little bit, and you can see it blends right in now. So just go around your tumbler. If you need to do like the top, if you want the top shingles or scales to hit the top, make sure that's flush to the rim. You can add more to the top. So now what I'm gonna do after this is I'm going to take my acrylic sealer, or my acrylic coating, my Krylon Crystal Clear. I'm going to take this outside, and I'm going to spray 3 generous coats of my Crystal Clear, the same thing that I did with the white. So I'm going to spray, wait 5 seconds, spray again, wait 5 seconds, spray again, and I'm going to let it dry for about 20-25 minutes. Before I do that, I want to get all of this glitter at the bottom off of the tumbler. So make sure you can take a wet wipe, you could take your finger, whichever you like, and try to take that off of the tumbler. And I will be adding decals, so if you do have some glitter on your tumbler, that's okay. It just adds to the look. So if you want to keep some of that glitter on just to make it look busy, because I know like gingerbread houses, they're kind of busy. You add everything everywhere. So if you want to tie that into the overall look, go ahead and keep it on there. Or if you wanted to clean it up more, just take a baby wipe or a wet paper towel and just clean up your tumbler before you seal in your glitter. Because once you seal in your glitter, it's going to stay there. So that overspray is going to get on this brown area, I'm sure, and it's going to lock that glitter in. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this, and I'll see y'all in about 25 to 30 minutes. Welcome back, guys. My tumbler is completely dried. The glitter is locked in, so now I'm going to add my decals. Now I'm going to add these decals because I don't want to do a layer of epoxy, add decals, and do another layer of epoxy. So I'm just going to add my decals now and then do the layer of epoxy, and then I'll be finished. So I have my towel down. I kind of do that to help me prop. Don't try to rub your glitter on your towel too much. It is locked in, but I don't want to rub it off or smear it away. So I found some decals on Cricut Design Space. I'm going to add my door for my gingerbread house, and then I'm going to add my windows, maybe a gingerbread man, something of that sort. So I'm going to add the house. And then after the house, or I'm sorry, the door, and then after the door, I'll add the windows. Now I'm planning on adding some white on the bottom before I do my final layer of epoxy. So I'm adding the house a little bit, about 1 inch higher than the bottom. So I'm not placing it on the bottom flush, I added a little higher. So far I have my windows, my door, I added a little wreath on the door, and then I have my little gingerbread men holding hands there. And again, it's a little from the bottom, so I can add that white on the bottom there. So I might add a couple candy canes over here, maybe some candies. I know like the theme of gingerbread houses are they're really, really busy. So you can make yours as busy as you like. So you can add a lot of stuff on the back side, maybe like gumdrop buttons or peppermints or something of that sort. So I found a couple candy canes on Cricut Design Space and I slanted them. I attached them, then I welded them together. So I added these 2 candy canes on the other side of the gingerbread house. So my house is completed. Like I said, add as much candies or designs as you like on this house. I thought it would be really cute to add like a whole row of gingerbread around the bottom, or even a whole row of like candy canes down the bottom. I thought that would be a cute idea. So for my next step before I epoxy, I'm going to take white spray paint and I'm going to spray paint around the bottom of my tumbler, little bit at a time. So whenever I spray paint, I'm not going to be aiming at the bottom. And this is an optional step. You can leave it like this, but I just want to put a little bit of snow at the bottom. So I'm going to be spray painting not at my tumbler, but away from my tumbler, so the mist can get onto the bottom of the tumbler, and it's going to overlap the decals, it's going to overlap the gingerbread, so that's going to be fine. I just want to make that little snow effect. So I will return with that, and once we're finishing with that, we'll move on to the epoxy step. I added my little bit of spray paint at the bottom. You can see it gives it a good little snow effect. While my spray paint is still wet, I'm going to take Diamonds, the white glitter from Glitter Heart Company, and I'm going to add some to the white spray paint. So I'm just going to give it a little extra shine at the bottom. The spray paint is still wet. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on the bottom because there's always room for more glitter, of course, on these tumblers. So wherever it sticks, that's where it sticks. So I'm doing this right after I spray painted. So I like that this gives it just a good little bit of accent at the bottom. And I like how it kind of goes with the top some. And if you want to add more like near the door or underneath the door more, just take a little bit of Mod Podge and add some underneath the door. So this gives it like that pretty little snow. You see that it's kind of blocking how it's coming up to that doorway. It's on the little gingerbread men. So if I didn't add more, or if you want more, just add a little bit of Mod Podge and add more. So that white spray paint behind it gives it that nice snow look. So if you don't have white spray paint, or if you don't trust yourself with white spray paint, you might not get it in the right areas, or you're scared to do an overspray, you can always just put Mod Podge on this and then put the diamonds, but you won't have that really big white background. So here it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray this bottom with that acrylic coating just 3 times, wait 20 minutes, and then we're off to epoxying. I'm now going to apply my epoxy to my tumbler. I have mixed a total of 30 milliliters of epoxy for this 20-ounce tumbler. I'm going to have more epoxy than less because this is going to be my last coat of epoxy. Once I'm finishing applying my epoxy to my tumbler, I'm then going to allow my tumbler to spin on the cup turner for about 6 to 8 hours. After about the 6 to 8 hours, I'm then going to turn off my cup turner, and then I'm going to have it air dry or air cure for another 10 to 12 hours. So I want the total drying time to be about 24 hours. And once it has been 24 hours, you can then start cleaning up the rim of your tumbler, or the inside. And I do have a video on how to clean up the rim of the tumbler. I will be posting that along with other help videos in my description below. So go ahead and check that out. And I've epoxied my entire tumbler. So I hope this video was helpful, and if you did find it helpful, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tumbler and craft videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.